That B-roll sequence, I think that's probably the best I've done in a while. Probably the best I've done ever. That was sick. I'm super stoked on that. Let's get to this video. Today we're talking about the Sony FE 85mm 1.8. I don't know why I'm doing this so you guys can see the lens pretty much. But let me start off by saying this is one of my favorite lenses for the Sony A7iii or any Sony camera in general. It's a beast of a lens. I'm telling you right now, for the price and for the size of this thing, which is like not big at all, it's amazing. Let's start off with the lens build and functions. It is a prime lens, meaning you only have one focal length, 85mm, and that's all you get. But there is good things to using a prime lens, which means, you know, sharper images, better bokeh, and things like that. It's a decent sized lens, fits right in your hand, fits right in your pocket if you have big enough shorts or pants or whatever. It doesn't take up too much space in your camera bag or whatever you're carrying, and it doesn't weigh that much either. It is a full frame lens, but you can use it on crop sensor cameras. It'll only multiply it by like the 1.5, which will equal like a 127mm or something like that, which might not be a bad idea if you're trying to shoot something that's really far away and get a nice image with this lens. The focus ring on this thing is smooth, which is great for video. When you're pulling some focus, you can smoothly move this ring around and get some nice focus. I've used it a lot with video, and it is a beast when you're pulling focus manually, and it is made out of metal. It's not rubber. Some people have complained that they like the rubber focus rings better than the metal ones. Doesn't really make a difference to me as long as it's smooth and you can pull focus nicely. There is no optical steady shot on this, but you know, with the Sony A7iii, you have some pretty good stabilization in there, unless you're using it on some of the 6000 series cameras. Some of those don't have stabilization, so just keep that in mind. And it is a tight lens, so any like micro jitters or movements you will see more on camera because it is a tight lens, and usually you get more movement out of those lenses. But with the A7iii, you have pretty good stabilization, and you should be able to hold stiff enough, unless you drink like 10 Red Bulls or Monsters right before and you're just like shaking like a crackhead, and your footage is just gonna be shit pretty much. So pro tip, don't drink a lot of Red Bull or Monster before using this lens if your camera does not have any stabilization, or use a gimbal. One thing I like about this lens is the autofocus and manual focus switch on here, which lets you take control of your focusing situation at any point in time. You just switch that bad boy right there and your manual focus or autofocus, and you can take control of the situation. It has a custom button right next to it as well, which that allows you to program whatever you want on there. In the past, I've programmed eye autofocus on this lens because I like using this lens for portraits. So when you're shooting and you want to catch focus on that person's eye, or that dog's eye, or maybe the lizard's eye, or maybe you're taking pictures of, you know, a whale or something jumping out of the water, and you're like, I gotta catch focus on the eye. You click this thing and it catches focus on the eye. Just kidding, I'm not sure if it would catch the whale jumping out of the water's eye, but you get what I'm saying. You can program that button to do whatever you want. It's useful because just like the Sony A7iii, there's a lot of C buttons on there, C1, C2, C3 custom buttons, and this is just an extra one to add to your custom buttons and make it do whatever you want. Maybe you can program this to shoot lasers in the future. Maybe Sony will come out with an update for the Sony 85mm and do like laser focus shooting auto mode, and when you see someone that you know that you don't like in the crowd and you're shooting, and you just literally shoot lasers out of your lens. That would be pretty dope. Speaking of focus, the autofocusing on this lens is pretty quick. If you're trying to catch something quick, you know, you're trying to focus on a subject, trying to focus on someone's face, it will do it pretty fast. Autofocusing, I haven't heard any noise from this while doing video. I've never actually heard anything from it. Autofocusing motor in here is not loud at all. I haven't had a problem with it, at least. Minimum focusing distance for this lens is probably about an arm's length. I don't know the exact numbers of the focusing, minimum focusing length on this, but it is about an arm's length. So if you're trying to do like some product shots or something like that, you gotta give yourself some space, back up, and get the shot because it won't focus if you're too close. So when you're shooting, keep that in mind. If you're in a kind of a tight space or enclosed space, you will need to have the room to back up with this lens because it is an 85mm and the minimum focusing distance is pretty far. What could you use this lens for? Why would you buy an 85mm and what could you use it for? Well, one of the main purposes of this lens is to shoot portrait. It is like the holy grail for portraits. I don't know if it is a holy grail for portraits. I just like saying stuff like that because it makes me sound smarter. But this is a great portrait lens. I love using it for portraits. I take pictures of my nieces and nephews. Don't got kids, but I take pictures of, you know, my family. I've done a lot of portraits with this lens and I always love how they come out. It's one of my favorite lenses to take pictures of people. It's great because it doesn't distort faces. It doesn't do anything. It keeps it all in shape. If it's too wide, it'll distort. 85mm is kind of like a perfect focal length to get some nice portraits. I've also used this for street photography. I used it for car photography, and I've even used it at event photography for concerts, which is great as well because of the focal length. 85mm, you don't have to be so close to the band or artist and shoot photos of them and still get some creamy bokeh, buttery bokeh in the background. And speaking of buttery bokeh, the lens compression and the bokeh from this lens is amazing. Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I love this lens so much, because it can make anything look cool. You can take a freaking turd that a dog just left on the street and you get low on it and you focus on it and it blurs out the background and it gives you bokeh and all that, and that turd will look amazing because you're just like, that's a professional ass picture of a turd. But I'm telling you, this lens will make anything look cool. I love it. The compression it gives you at 85mm at 1.8 is amazing. The bokeh is just butter. It's amazing. Some people I've heard say they don't really like it, like they're really pixel peeping, saying the bokeh is not perfect. I'm just like, bro, like it looks awesome. The lens is also very sharp. Even at 1.8, you can get some really sharp pictures, portraits and all that. So that's a plus. But that bokeh though is good. Some people ask, is this lens worth it, or should I get the G Master 1.4 or the Zeiss 85mm they have? What you're getting for the price on this lens, this is more than good enough for what you're going to be doing. And 1.4, the difference between 1.4 and 1.8, you're not going to get that much more light, and the bokeh is going to be almost the same. Maybe the 1.4 is going to give you a little more like nicer buttery bokeh, but this is still going to give you a great image, great bokeh, great lens compression. So I mean, if you're a baller, like if you're just like, yeah, I want the best of the best, I want nothing but the best, go ahead, go get the G Master. You're a baller, you go get that. But if you're kind of a creator on a budget like me and you don't have all the money in the world and you're like, I just want something to make my dog look cool, then you know, you can spend $500 on this and you get professional ass looking photos. Photographer. Why does that word sound weird after you say it a couple times? Photograph. Anyways, is this lens for you and should you buy it? Well, I think yes. Even if you're just taking pictures of your kids, you won't regret it. This lens is gonna give you some awesome looking images of your kids, of your food, of your cars, of your landscapes. Even I know at 85mm you can still get some great landscapes, of event photography, anything. Like literally, if you're out and about taking street photography or whatever, this lens can cover a variety of scenarios. Especially if you're into taking portraits, this is a great lens to start off with. I believe Sigma just released a 85mm 1.4, so I'm curious to see if any of you have bought the Sigma 1.4 or any of you have the Sony 1.8 and what you would prefer. I personally think I've been happy with this lens for the longest time. I don't think I would be switching this lens out anytime soon, just because it's a great lens for the price. It's a great value, and it's a great lens to have in your camera bag. If you guys have that lens, comment down below. Let me know how you like it, if you hate it, if you've taken any pictures of dog turds. And make sure to subscribe because we're almost at 1,000. We're like literally like 11 subscribers away. Thank you to everyone who's been subscribing. Thank you to everyone who watches these videos, and thank you to everyone who makes it to the end of these videos and watches my weird ass babble on for about 10 minutes. So yeah, if you guys want to watch more videos, make sure to click any of these two videos right here, and I'll see you guys on the next one.